Oh. Oh, well, hello. I didn't see you there. What are you doing in my house? Well, it doesn't matter. I'm Brian Townsend, and welcome to the Players Guild of Dearborn's first ever Pajama Monologues. As you know, we've all been social distancing these days when we'd really love to be on stage. So we thought, why not give our actors an opportunity to do some things that they might not get a chance to do, but in the comfort and safety of their own home and in their pajamas. And just like that, the Pajama Monologues were born. Now, tonight, you'll get to see the works of William Shakespeare, Lewis Carroll, and Mark Twain, and even some original work, all performed by talented actors from around the Metro Detroit area. So, put on your jammies, sit back, and enjoy the world premiere of the Pajama Monologues.
To be or not to be? That's the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep, no more. By sleep, to say that we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. As a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Ah, there's a rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when if we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. And there's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. Who would bear the whips and scorns of time? The proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, the patient merit that the unworthy take. Would not he himself his quietus might make the bare bootkin? Who would fardels bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life, if not that dread of death was something after death? The undiscovered country, from whose bourne no traveller here returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have, and fly to others we know not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied over by the pale cast of thought. Enterprises of great pitch and moment with this regard, their currents turn awry and lose the name of action.
Talking to my best friend after my date as a 19-year-old. Oh, it was so wonderful. Well, he's actually 25. And guess what? He picked me up on a motorcycle. Well, I know. Well, it is his dad's, but still. Our hair was blowing. Oh, his hair smelled so good. It was like a movie. Well, we actually did go see a movie, but I couldn't watch most of it. I just kept looking at him. Oh, he is so cute. Well, then we went to a restaurant and got dessert. No, just dessert. He didn't get his paycheck yet, so he said just dessert. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I could hardly eat any of it because I had so many butterflies in my stomach and I was just so afraid I would drip chocolate on my face or something. Oh, so I mostly watched him eat. His eyes, I can't even stand it. I could just stare at him all night. No, we didn't go to his house. He still lives in his parents' basement, but he said that's only temporary. I just feel like we really connected, you know, like on a whole different level. What? Oh, no, I don't know. Oh, well, I don't really know that about him either. We didn't really have that much to talk about, you know? No, he has my number, and I will just be waiting every minute for him to call. And talking to my best friend after my date, since I've had to start dating again now that I'm in my 40s. Yeah, I just got home. Well, I know it's 9, but I have a meeting in the morning. Well, let's see. He's never been married, so no alimony payments. Ding! Yeah, he's been in his current job for 15 years, so steady income with a 401k and 401k employer match. Hey! Yeah, he has medical, dental, and vision insurance coverage with a high deductible, but a low premium, so not too bad. I can live with that. Yeah, he does have some student loans, but I had him bring his statements, and if he follows the payment plan we worked out, he should have those paid off in about a year or so. Yeah, the background check I ran showed he's not on the sex offender list and has no felonies, right? A win there. Yep, life insurance policy's up to date, and he agreed to a new physical and reported no pre-existing conditions. So, yeah, I might go out with him again. What's that? What did he look like? You know, kind of like a brownish, blondish, darkish hair. He must have been fine. I'll take a closer look when we meet up next week at the retirement seminar I signed us up for.
Dost thou not suspect my place? Dost thou not suspect my years? Oh, that he were here to write me down an ass! But, masters, I pray thee remember that I am an ass. Though it not be writ down, yet forget not that I am an ass. No, villain. Thou art full of piety, as shall be proved upon thee by good witness. I am a wise fellow, and which is more an officer, and which is more a homeowner, and which is more as pretty a piece of flesh as any in Messina, and one that knows the law go to. And a rich enough fellow go to, and one that had half his losses go to, and had half 2 gowns and everything handsome about him. Take him away! Oh, that he were here to write me down an ass!
Carol. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd because it was the middle of the night. The moon was shining sulkily because she thought the sun had no business to be there after the day was done. It's very rude of him, she said, to come and spoil the fun. The sea was wet as wet could be. The sand was dry as dry. You could not see a cloud because no clouds were in the sky. No birds were flying overhead. There were no birds to fly. The walrus and the carpenter were walking close at hand. They wept like anything to see such quantities of sand. If this were all swept away, they said, it would be grand. If 7 maids with 7 mops swept it for half a year, do you suppose, the walrus said, That they could get it clear? I doubt it, said the carpenter, and shed a bitter tear. Oh, oysters, come and walk with us, the walrus did beseech. A pleasant talk, a pleasant walk along the briny beach. We cannot do with more than 4 to give a hand to each. The eldest oyster looked at him, but never a word he said. The eldest oyster winked his eye and shook his heavy head, meaning to say he did not choose to leave the oyster bed. But 4 young oysters hurried up, all eager for the treat. Their coats were brushed, their faces washed, their shoes are clean and neat. And this was odd because, they haven't any feet. 4 other oysters followed them, and yet another 4, and thick and fast they came at last, and more and more and more, all hopping through the frothy waves and scrambling for the shore. The walrus and the carpenter walked on a mile or so, and then they rested on a rock conveniently low, and all the little oysters stood and waited in a row. The time has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings, of why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings. But wait a bit, the oysters cried, before we have our chat, because some of us are out of breath and all of us are fat. No hurry, said the carpenter. They thanked him much for that. A loaf of bread, the walrus said, is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar beside are very good indeed. Now, if you're ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed. But not on us, the oysters cried, turning a little blue. After such kindness, that would be a dismal thing to do. The night is fine, the walrus said. Do you admire the view? It was so kind of you to come, and you are so very nice. The carpenter said nothing, but cut us another slice. I wish you were not quite so deaf. I've had to ask you twice. It seems a shame, the walrus said, to play them such a trick, after we brought them out so far and made them trot so quick. The carpenter said nothing, but the butter spread too thick. I weep for you, the walrus said. I deeply sympathize. With sobs and tears, he sorted out those of the largest size, holding his pocket handkerchief before his streaming eyes. Oh, oysters, said the carpenter, you've had a pleasant run, but shall we be trotting home again? But answer came there none. And this was scarcely odd because they'd eaten every one.
Then I see that Queen Mab hath been with you. Well, she is the fairy's midwife. Then she comes in shape no bigger than an agate stone. On the forefinger of an alderman, drawn with a team of little atomies, athwart men's noses as they lie asleep. Her wagon spokes, made of long spinner's legs, the cover of the wings of grasshoppers, her traces of the smallest spinner's web, her collars of the moonshine's watery beam, her whip of cricket's bone, the lash of film, her wagoner, a small, gray-coated net, not half so big as a round little worm, pricked from the lazy finger of a maid. Her chariot is an empty hazelnut, made by, the joiner's squirrel, or old grub. Oh, time out of mind, the fairy's coachmakers, and in this state she gallops night by night, or lovers' dreams, and then they dream of love, or courtiers' knees that dream on curtsies straight, or lawyers' fingers who straight dream on fees, or ladies' lips who straight on kisses dream, which oft the angry mad with blisters plagues, because their breaths with sweetmeats tainted are. Sometimes she gallops o'er a courtier's nose, and then dreams he of smelling a suit. And sometimes she comes with a tithe pig's tail, tickling a parson's nose as a lies, and then dreams he of another benefice. Sometimes she driveth o'er a soldier's neck, and then dreams he of cutting foreign throats, of breaches, ambuscados, of hells 5 fathom deep, and then anon drones in his ear, at which he starts and wakes, and being thus frighted, swears a prayer or two, and sleeps again. This is that very mab which plats the manes of horses in the night, and bakes the elf locks in foul sluttish hairs, which, once untangled, much misfortune bodes. This is the hag, when maids lie on their backs, that presses them, and learns them first to bear, making them women of good carriage. This is she.
This new creature, the one with the long hair, is a good deal in the way. It's always hanging around and following me about. I don't like this. I'm not used to the company. I wish it would just stay with the other animals. I get no chance to name anything myself. The new creature names everything that comes along before I can protest. And always the same pretext is offered. It looks like the thing. There's a dodo, for instance. It says the moment that one looks at it, one sees at a glance that it looks like a dodo. It will have to keep that name, no doubt. Oh, it wearies me to fret about it. And it does no good, anyway. Dodo. It looks no more like a dodo than I do. I built me a shelter against the rain. But, of course, I could not have it to myself in peace. The new creature intruded. And when I tried to put it out, it shed water out the holes it looks with, and wiped it away with the back of its paws, and made a noise such as some of the other animals make when they're in distress. Oh, I wish it would not talk. It's always talking. The naming goes recklessly on in spite of anything that I can do. I had a very good name for the estate. It was musical and pretty. Garden of Eden. Privately, I continue to call it that. But no longer publicly, the new creature says that it's all woods and rocks and scenery, and therefore has no resemblance to a garden. Says it looks like a park, and does not look like anything but a park. Consequently, without consulting me, it has been new named Niagara Falls Park. This is sufficiently high-handed, it seems to me. And already, there's a sign up. Keep off the grass. My life is not as happy as it was. I escaped last Tuesday night and traveled for 2 days and built me another shelter in a secluded place. And I obliterated my tracks as well as I could, but she hunted me out by means of a beast that she has tamed and has called a wolf, and came making that pitiful noise again and shedding that water out the places she looks with. I was obliged to return with her, but presently will emigrate again when the occasion allows. She engages herself in many, many foolish things, among others, to study out why the animals called lions and tigers live on grass and flowers, when, as she says, the sort of teeth they wear would indicate that they were intended to eat each other. This is foolish, because to do that would be to kill each other. And that would introduce, as I understand it, death. And death, as I have been told, has not yet entered the park. What a pity on some accounts.
What fires mine ears! Can this be true? Stand I, condemned of pride and scorn so much? Contempt, farewell, and maiden pride adieu. No glory lives in the back of such. But Benedict, love on. I will requite thee, taming my wild heart with thy loving hand. Thou dost love. My kindness shall incite thee to bind our love in a holy band. For others say thou dost deserve, and I believe it better than reporting me.
Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this son of York, and all the clouds that lowered upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean are buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths, our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarums changed to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. Grim-visaged war has smoothed his wrinkled front, and now, instead of mounting barbed steeds of war to fright the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly to a lady's chamber, to the lascivious pleasings of a lute. But I, that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking-glass, I, that am rudely stamped and want love's majesty to strut before a wanton ambling nymph, I, that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time into this breathing world scarce half made up, and that so lamely and unfashionable that the dogs bark at me as I halt by them. Why, I, in this weak piping time of peace, hath no delight to pass away the time, unless to see my shadow in the sun, and descant on mine own deformity. And therefore, since I cannot prove a lover to entertain these fair, well-spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain, and hate the idle pleasures of these days. Plots have I laid, inductions dangerous, with drunken prophecies, libels, and dreams, to set my brother Clarence and the king in deadly hate of the one against the other. And if King Edward be as true and just as I am subtle, false, and treacherous, this day should Clarence closely be mewed up about a prophecy which states that G of Edward's heirs the murderer shall be. Dive thoughts down to my soul. Hark! Here Clarence comes.
And that just about ties up this evening's Pajama Monologues. As you may know, the Players Guild of Dearborn has been hosting a variety of cabarets lately, and we are hoping for even more evenings of monologues to come your way. Now, to keep an eye on all we're doing, just go to your favorite social media platform and subscribe or follow us. And you can always check us out at playersguildofdearborn.org. And if you are feeling especially generous, please check out the donate link below. I promise you, we would be very grateful for your support. And you can do it all from the comfort of your jammies. Now, before we leave tonight, just one final thought. The world has been a crazy place lately. So we would like to leave you with this lovely message from our talented actor and writer, Tiffany Mullins.
When to listen and when to speak, if ever a time, it's now. When to weep and when to seek, if ever a time, it's now. When to ask and when to befriend, if ever a time, it's now. When to comfort and when to proclaim, if ever a time, it's now. When to encourage and when to see, if ever a time, it's now. When to reflect and when to act, if ever a time, it's now. When to learn and when to teach, if ever a time, it's now. When to confess and when to forgive, if ever a time, it's now. And when to pray and when to love, if ever a time, it's now.